All right, so first off, we are here for only 15 minutes today, so these are our objectives for that time together. First off, we want to determine what it is that makes a good graphic. So if we have the skills to make a graphic but we don't know what makes a great one, then that's kind of a problem. So we're going to just talk about that for a little bit. And then we'll move on to a demo using the pen, shape, and color tools to create an icon. So we'll do that both in InDesign and Illustrator. Then we're going to discuss optional project for hands-on learning. So I know some of you like to do a little bit more hands-on work, so we came up with something optional for you to do after this webinar. So since this is more of a demo, if you wanted to get involved in it, we'll talk about the details more in the end, but it's a great opportunity for you to get feedback and kind of get some sounding board from your peers. So, and then we also will talk about reviewing the resource section, which we just did. So we've already accomplished one of our objectives. All right, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so what is it that makes a good logo or graphic? And this is where we would really like to get your feedback here. So in the chat section at the bottom, if you would start typing it in, what makes a good logo or graphic? So I'm going to pull up this screen here, and you'll see there's quite a few little icons across there. And some of these are very clear, exactly what they're for, and then some of them, they might be attractive looking, but it's not so exactly clear. All right, so I'm going to type some of these on the screen here while we've got George mentioned negative space. That's a great one. Let's see. Self-explanatory. That's an excellent one. Dara, thank you. All right, solid colors, obvious, yes. Recognizable, absolutely. Colors match, yes, that's important. Easy to reprint, yes, and simple. Understandable in different languages, that's an excellent point there as well. So your audience is important. Can be resized, absolutely. That's one of my favorite ones there. So especially when you're talking about that resize one, if you'll see this one right here in the middle, it says World of Goo or something like that. If you look at it, it's really kind of hard to see, especially the of or whatever that little word is supposed to be there. Whereas if we look over here at this microphone, it is easily scalable. So even at this small size, it's clear that's a microphone, or you can make it larger or smaller. But again, those kind of obvious, self-explanatory, easy to reprint, so it works both in the small and large on print, or web is also important, and understanding your audience. Is my audience going to understand what this is? So you all have some great feedback there. All right, very exciting. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to create a simple graphic, right? So this is a very simple, like we just talked about, recognizable camera. So if you found this on the web and you liked it and you wanted to use it, but you didn't want the white background or something like that, I'm going to show you how you can create this yourself. So you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. So we're going to move over to InDesign, and we're going to start our demo here. All right. So I'm going to go up to File and New. I'm going to make a new document. I'm just going to leave everything at the default. Okay. So the first thing I want to point out, so welcome to InDesign, and the first thing I want to point out is something that I like to do if I'm creating a graphic is I like to use an image kind of as something to trace. So let's say, for example, so I want to create a handshake like we'll do later on, or I want to do something that's you know, it's kind of complicated. So it makes it a lot easier, and you don't have to be an expert drawer or expert sketch artist with your mouse or whatever it is you're using, because you have something that you can easily a guide, so to speak. All right, so for that, I'm going to place an image. So go to File, Place, and then I have some, here we go, I have an image that I'm going to place here. All right. And just 1 second while I'm pulling that up. There we go, creating images and icons. All right. All right, so here's our image. We've placed it on there. All right. So now that I've got it here, one thing that I want to do is come over to my layers panel, and I'm going to lock the layer first of all, so you can see right there. You might have to move your control panel to be able to see the panel on the right-hand side there. But you'll see there I've locked that layer. So now when I come over here, I don't accidentally move the image. Then I'm going to create a new layer on top of that by this little button right here, that Create New Layer button. All right, so you'll see Layer 2. And this is where I'm going to come in, and I'm going to start by using the shape tools. Now, one thing that you can do here that's kind of a tip is if you're building this by shapes, I suggest kind of working back to front. So let's say if on this one, if I wanted to work back to front, I would start with that rectangle in the background, which is what I'm going to do now. And then kind of move from one to the next. And you don't have to do that way. You can always reorder your layers, but it does just take out a little bit of extra work. All right, so since I want to make this a rectangle and I want it to kind of start in that top left-hand corner, you can really start in any corner. The trick here is to kind of imagine that those two lines go all the way till they intersect. So I'm going to start in that top left corner, see where I'm starting there, and it gets me pretty close to exactly where I want to be. All right, so now since I'm using InDesign, I'm going to come up here to that control panel at the top. You'll see this little corner drop down. So there's all different kinds of corner options here, none, fancy, bevel, inset. So I'm going to go all the way down to rounded, and you'll notice it's not quite what I want yet. So I'm going to use the selection tool, which is the black arrow, and I'm going to come down and see this little yellow square right there. It's a little bit different than the other ones. This is the one that you click on to edit the corner. So I'm going to click and, oops, didn't get where I wanted it. There we go, I clicked on it. Now I'm going to drag it. And oops, so it's a little more than I wanted, so I can adjust it again. And you can kind of just click it and it drags. And you'll notice it automatically, by default, moves all of the corners at the same time. All right, so that's pretty close to what we want. And now, while we have it selected, I want to go ahead and change the fill color on this. So right now it's empty, and I have a simple black line around the stroke around the edge. And I can tell this by up here in the top under the control panel. So this top one right here is the fill, and right now it's empty. So I'm going to change it to black. And I'm going to come down right here to the stroke. So this is the second one that looks like a frame. I'm going to change that to none. All right. So now we have a black box. So you may be thinking, all right, great. Now we've created the rectangle and we can't see anything. So we're going to go back to the layers panel and we're going to hide our rectangle. I'm going to click right here and I'm going to expand the layer. See that little drop down arrow? I just clicked it and expanded. I'm going to click the eyeball, which toggles the visibility next to rectangle. There we go. So it's still there, I just hid it. So you can turn the eyeball off and on. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm going to create a line. So I've gone over here and selected the line tool. All right, and right now we can see that my stroke is black, so I'm going to change that to paper. And paper means that basically whatever color your paper is that you're going to be printing on, that's the color that whatever object it is that you select, that's the color it will be. So it's not putting any ink there, basically. All right, so right here, I'm coming across, I'm holding down the Shift key. So if I let go of Shift, you'll notice I can kind of make it go crazy. If I hold down Shift, it's going to keep it perfectly level for me. All right, there we go. And so it's a little bit thin right now, so you can tell it's not really the width that we want it to be. So while we have it still selected, we're going to go up to the top and we're going to change the width right here in that control panel. So right here it says 2 points. I'm going to keep going, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do just a little more. Well, that's about 9. So, well, there's 10. All right, so that's right about where we want it. All right. And yes, for those of you who are wondering if the recording will be available for later on to visit, yes, we will have that. All right. Now, so now that we've got the line across there, I'm going to drop in the circle right here. Another thing that I recommend too, so when we talked about the rectangle, we were looking for the corner. We basically want to imagine like this circle is inside of a square. So if you want it to kind of line up with where the circle currently is, I'm going to imagine it, kind of draw an imaginary line out to the left and then up from the side. So right about there. I'm going to click and drag, and you'll notice right now that the proportions will change. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. There we go. And you'll notice it keeps it as a perfect circle. All right, so it's not exactly where we want it. I'm just going to use the little arrow keys to get it over closer. And then we're going to turn this into, we're going to make it, change the fill to black, which is that top drop down here. And then right underneath it, the one with the frame, that's the stroke. We're going to leave that as paper, and we're going to turn this way up. Let's try 20. How about a little bit more? There we go. And then I'm going to shrink it in a little bit, so I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt at the same time. I'm changing to the selection tool, which is the black arrow there. Shift and Alt, and I'm shrinking it in. There we go. That's about where we want it. All right. So right now I'm going to turn our rectangle back on. This is what we've made so far. So there's the first part of our camera. All right, so next I'm going to move on to the pen tool. So the pen tool is going to be a lot of what we talk about today, a little bit later on. But it's over on the left-hand side, and it's right here. It looks kind of like one of those fancy older pens. So there are an ink pen. So I'm going to click on the pen tool. And you'll notice we could do a rectangle here, but if I zoom in, which I'm going to do, Command plus or Control plus if you're on a PC, I'm going to zoom in, and you can see it's kind of tilted. So I could go in and move the different points around on the rectangle, but it's going to be much simpler just to use the pen tool. So what I do with the pen tool is I come up to the corner here. I'm going to click, and you'll see I've just made a point there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so we can see it a little better. All right. I'm going to make another point. I clicked, and you'll see I've got a line there. And right now it's white because here's the stroke. It's set at white. We'll come back and change that in a moment. All right, next I'm going to go to the next point. I'm just basically tracing the shape. And you'll notice right now, while I have the pen tool, there's a little arrow there. But if I hover over another point, it turns to the circle. That means I'm about to complete the shape. So if I go off, and I go back on, you'll see I'm about to complete the shape by clicking on that point. So I click on the point, and I've got a full shape there. So I'm going to change to my selection tool. I've got it selected, and you'll notice we have that white border. We don't really want that, so I'm going to switch it to none. And then I'm going to change the fill to black so it matches. There we go. All right, so I'm going to do that again so we can see it again. I'm going to grab the pen tool, and I click at each point, just tracing the shape. And then as soon as I hover over that point, you'll see it turns into that circle right there. So I've completed the shape, and I want it to be filled with black, and we want the border to be none. All right, so this time when I've got my pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and change it to start with to be what we want. All right, so click, 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 and then I come back. Oops, I missed it. There we go. On circle. There we go. So now I've got the full shape there. So I'm going to hide the original. There we go. And a shortcut key, if you want to fit your image in your screen, you can do that by hitting Command or Control 0, and it fits it to your screen. So Command or Control plus or minus will zoom you in or out. Command 0 will fit it to the screen, which is really nice because then you don't have to mess with zooming in and out. All right, so now we've made our camera. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit, and I'm going to move it over. To select it, I just clicked and dragged over all the different parts. And you can go ahead and group it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Right-click and group. So now if I click on it at any part of it, it's all selected together. You can always undo that by right-clicking and then clicking ungroup. And now I'm going to show our original. So there's the original, and there's the new one we just created. Oh, and I left out the little eyepiece. All right, so we want it to go right about, there we go. We'll change that to big. There we go. So there's what we just created, and there's the original. And I do want to point out really quickly, you'll notice right here what we're looking at that has those little red lines around it, that is not going to print. That's just something that InDesign is showing us where the edge is, basically. We can change the view. Oops, let me move it over. Move it over onto the page. And I'm going to change the view. And now you'll see those red lines disappear. So that's just for us to see where the edge is. All right. All right, so that's the InDesign portion. I'm going to move over to Illustrator. And you'll notice, let's go ahead and minimize InDesign here. Move over to Illustrator. For this one, we're going to do something a little more complex. We're going to do a handshake. And you'll notice here, there's the watermark. So with this one, if we wanted to do an illustration of a handshake, what I would do is go find an image just like this one or something like that I could use as kind of a guide, just like we did with the camera, because that's a fairly complex shape. So we've got the handshake. Now I'm going to go over to Illustrator, and I'm going to go to File, New. All right, and we're going to make this we'll make this a little bit. We'll make it a normal page size. Oops, not legal. There we go. And you'll notice right here in units, for those of you who are new to Illustrator, you can change this, points, picas, inches, millimeters, centimeters, pixels. We'll just change it to inches, and right now we've got it at just a normal letter size. All right? And you can change the name to whatever you want. We'll call it handshake. There we go. And we'll say OK. All right, so there's our new image we've got here. All right, so what we're gonna, our new document, the first thing we're gonna do is gonna put an image in here. So we'll go to File, Place, which is just like Insert. Basically, if you were using Word or something like that, they would call it Insert. So we're gonna place or insert an image. And, all right, I'm gonna go over here. There we go. We'll put our image in there nice and large. All right, so there's our image. That's what we're going to use to trace. Okay, so also with Illustrator, you also have the option to do layers. So right now I don't have the layers panel open. So to open that, I'm going to go to Window. And you'll notice right here, this list, that list is all of the different panels that you can open over here. So like right now I've got the swatches panel, color, paragraph, all those different options. So we're going to come over here to layers. Oh, it is open. There we go. Oh, it's right in front of me. There it is. All right. So we're looking at layers right here. I want to move it a little so we can see it. You can always rearrange your panels too, or move them off. All right. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and expand that and lock this layer just like we did with InDesign. So you'll see already we've got some similarities going on. And we're going to try using two different tools for this one. So first off, we're going to use the pen tool like we did in that last example. And then we're going to try something else. We're going to try the pencil tool. And the new pencil tool in Illustrator, for those of you who may have used it before and it was an absolute pain, it's phenomenal. It's far better than it used to be. So we're going to start with the pen tool. I'm going to come over here and select it. And we'll do this guy's arm right over here. So for those of you who haven't used the pen tool before, to do that, you click and that creates that first point just like before. But before we were creating those straight edges, this time I'm going to click once, and then this time I'm going to click, hold down the mouse, and drag. And I'm still holding down the mouse, but you'll notice that I can make, while I'm holding down the mouse, if I click, hold, and drag, I can create a curve there, which is kind of nice. So we want it to just curve slightly to go with that sleeve. Now I'm going to come here, and you'll notice it's kind of curving a little differently, and we don't want it. So I'm going to get close, and then we'll come back later on, and we'll adjust that. All right. All right, so I'm going to come down here, click, and drag, and you'll notice it's still not doing quite what we want, but we'll fix it in a minute here. And I'm going to click here, and remember I want to complete it, so there's that little circle, and I've clicked and completed it. All right, so you can tell right off that is not exactly what we want it to be, but it's a good start. So what we want to do is we want to go in and adjust each of those points. So to do that, we're going to use the direct selection tool, and that is this white arrow right here. So you may be wondering, well, what's the difference between the selection tool and the direct selection tool? That is a great question. So the selection tool will select the entire object, right? So I just went to the selection tool. I click anywhere inside this object here, and I've selected the entire thing. But what if I don't want the entire object? I just want to adjust this point right here and this point individually. Well, you can use the direct selection tool for that. So I choose the direct selection tool. I come over and I click on that individual point, and you'll see now I can grab either one of those handles and adjust them. So you can adjust both, or you can just kind of drag it in and adjust one at a time. All right, so we're getting closer to what we want. I'm going to come down here to this handle. And one thing I want to do really quickly is I'm going to change this from the fill of white to no fill. So this is a little bit different in Illustrator. This is also in InDesign, but we were using the control panel at the top. On the left-hand side, we're going to look in the tool panel this time. On the left-hand side, you'll notice there's a fill. I'm going to turn that off to none right here. So there's an option right there, or you can double-click right there. There we go. So, or you can come to swatches as well. All right, so I'm going to click right now. So you see the stroke is behind the fill. I'm going to click on that, which brings it to the front. So I'm going to double-click on that. And let's make it bright pink or red for the moment so we can see it, so we can see exactly where we're going. That's going to make it a little easier for us. All right. So now that we've got that there, I'm going to change our stroke a little bit more. There we go. Now we can really see it. All right. So now we're going to continue with the direct selection tool, that white arrow. And I'm going to click right here on that point and pull in this handle. And this takes a little bit of getting used to, adjusting these, and a little bit, it takes some control to get those exactly how you want to. So if it's not perfect the first time, don't worry. It does take a little bit to figure that out. All right, so now we did that part with the pen tool. Not too bad, pretty easy, but it does take a little getting used to. So now we're going to try out the pencil tool. And this is newly adjusted with Illustrator, and I was thrilled with this. I never used the pencil tool before just because it just wasn't very friendly. But now you have more control over it. So I'm going to double click on the pencil tool. Normally with the other ones you just click once, but when I double click it opens this little option box here. So the pencil tool options, and what we're looking at is the fidelity. So if I move this all the way up, I'm going to say OK, and this is different than the pen tool where I click and then click and drag, click and drag, and then adjust all the points. With this one, I'm just going to click and hold down my mouse, kind of like you could use a stylus to do this, or so it's a lot more like you're actually drawing. So I'm going to click and try to get fairly close to where I want it, and I'm clicking. I'm still holding my mouse down, and I'm still holding it down. I'm tracing his sleeve here, still holding it down, and then try to get close. There we go. All right, so right there, that is, I had adjusted the fidelity all the way over to the loosest it can be. All right, now I'm going to show you what it's like. This is what it used to be like. The fidelity is all the way up as far as it will go, that 0.5 pixels. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to trace his sleeve here. Look at that. So I'm going to zoom in. Look at all of the points on that. So if I wanted to adjust that, I would have to go in and adjust every single one of those points or get rid of some of the points. So it's a big mess. There may be instances when you needed that, but we do not. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. So you'll notice we went really quickly, just traced around this and got a lot closer than we did with the pen tool on the first go round. So we can come in with the direct selection tool again and tweak this to make it a little bit closer to what we want. All right, so I'm going to click on this point here, grab the handle, bring it over, click this handle, bring it over. All right, and this one right here, that needs a little touching up. All right, I'm going to drag that handle. That's getting us pretty close. Let's move this one over. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go back to the selection tool, and I'm going to show you another tool that's one of my favorite tools, and it is called the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool is great because it will pick up color from anywhere in your image that you select, and then you can use that color and drop it in wherever you want. So let's say, for example, we've got this sleeve on the left selected, and we want this kind of gray color. We want it to be that color. So I've got the selection tool. I move back to the selection tool, the black arrow, have the whole thing selected, and I'm going to select, all right, the fill color. So right now I'm working with the fill because it's in front of that border. I've got the fill selected, and then I'm going to come up here and just click on the eyedropper tool. You'll notice, so first off, remember I selected the path first with that with the selection tool, the black arrow. Then I came over to the eyedropper. All right, wherever that tip of the eyedropper is when I click, that's the color it's going to pick up. So I'm just going to click somewhere in this medium kind of gray up here. Boom, it just changed the entire color for us. All right, so now I'm going to come over here and select this one with the selection tool. Go back to the eyedropper, and we'll make it a little bit darker. And click down there, and it selects the color for us. It's an awesome tool. All right. So next, I'm going to go back to the pencil tool because I think it's a little bit faster for what we're trying to do. All right, pencil tool. I'm just going to click and hold. Actually, I want to check. Nope, I didn't change it back. All right, I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to double click again on the pencil tool and then adjust the fidelity. I'm going to put it all the way to 20 pixels and say, okay. So with this one, I'm going to overlap here, and I don't have to be exactly perfect, and I'm going to redo the layering in a minute. Here we go. Getting fairly close, and I'm going to quickly come back up here. All right, we need to adjust this one. So the direct selection tool, grab the point, and I'm just going to move it up a little bit. And we'll adjust those things. All right, we're going to a little closer. There we go. So I'm just messing with the handles there. All right, well, I've got that selected with the selection tool. I switched over to the selection tool. I'm going to use the eyedropper again and grab the sleeve. All right. So right now you can probably tell that that the sleeve is on top of the coat jacket, which we don't want. So I'm going to come right over here. And you'll notice that these are all in the layers panel. These are all listed as path, path, path. You can always rename those. So if this is getting confusing, you can just double click, left sleeve. There we go. So now I know exactly which one it is. And also if you're wondering, well, which path is the one I want on the left, you can hide them to see, okay, that's the one I'm looking for. So now I'm going to grab left sleeve and drag it underneath that path. So I just reordered them so one is sitting on top of the other. So you can do that anytime by just grabbing it and dragging it until that line shows up there in the layers panel. There we go. It's right where we want it. All right, so let's continue with the pencil tool. All right, we're going to use this sleeve here, come down, and I'm going to overlap and just reorder the layers again. All right, so now I'm going to change the eyedropper tool. Let's make this one, maybe not that one, Command Z. How about that? Command Z, Command or Control Z is one of my favorite shortcuts because you can always undo. All right, we'll just go with that color. All right, and then this direct selection tool again to kind of clean that up just a tad. There we go. And then I'm going to reorder it again by grabbing that path and dragging it underneath. There we go. So you can see what I just did there. I moved it underneath the sleeve. There we go. All right, back to the pencil tool. I'm going to trace the hand really quickly. And I'm going to overlap because I'm going to cover that. All right. And this is where the eyedropper comes in pretty handy. So you can kind of get that flesh tone that you're looking for. All right, let's go back to the relayer again. All right, pencil tool. And this one, we're going to move it here in just a minute. So I'm just going to get close, and then we're going to reorder those layers again. So this is where I really like the pencil tool because I can just get pretty close to where I want it, and I can always go back in and adjust it, but it makes it pretty simple for getting that initial shape. All right. So this eyedropper tool again. There we go. And let's reorder this. There we go. And ooh, that's a bit of a mess there. All right. So anyways, you would continue on. I won't keep going on and on with this. Let me open up. You can keep going with this, and then that would give us eventually, let me hide that. So that's kind of close to what we were going for. Again, you would keep cleaning it up till you got it just how you wanted it. Let me open up a finished one here. There we go. All right. So this is one that I spent a little bit more time on, so you can see. There we go. So it's got that nice lines and the different handshakes. So it's kind of meets our criteria from earlier. We wanted something clearly recognizable, simple, and scalable. And then also, so I used that same picture and came in and created my image. All right. So that concludes our tutorial demo portion. So before we wrap up, I want to come back over here. There we go. All right. And I want to talk about, so I know I just demoed it, and a lot of times it's really nice. I learn a lot of times best by being able to do things myself. So the idea here is to give you an opportunity to use the tools and then also the extra information in the materials section to use the tools to be able to do it yourself. So the idea is, if you have the time and you're interested in doing this, is creating your own icon or image. So hopefully this will be something that you could use maybe around the office. So if I ever do an extra project for something, I try to make it something that I can use here in the office or for class or something like that. So if you have a project that you want to kind of use that for, this is a great opportunity for that. So what you'll do is you create your own icon or graphic using the tools that we learned today, or again in that materials or resource section. And then post that graphic by Friday, May 2nd. And then I want to show you this. I want to show you this site real quickly. So this is the shared site, and you'll just need to log in with your SMU ID and password. All right. And move it over. There we go. So here's our site. So if you want to come in here, and this is an example, so and it has all the instructions, directions, how to post. We also have the same materials that are in the resource section today. So after we're done today, the email reminders that were sent out that has the link to those materials as well, but it's also on the site. So all of these links, what's new in Creative Cloud, the pencil tool, live corners, paths, the shape tool, saving artwork for the web, all kinds of great information there, as well as those additional tutorials I was telling you about. So what you'll do is you'll come in here and you'll go to add new discussion, and you'll put your project in there, and then attach your file, pull up whatever it is you're looking for. So I'll just pull up the graphic we used today. All right, creating images and icons, and we'll just use the camera for this one. Okay, and I'll say okay, and make a little note on it, and say save. All right, so now I've posted it. So what we're asking is that if you would go in and comment on 2 other people's projects. So if you're looking for peer feedback, so we talked about earlier, is it clearly recognizable? Well, it may be clearly recognizable. If I post something, it may be very clearly recognizable to me, but sometimes it's good to get feedback. Is this clearly recognizable to others? So I'm going to go in here to Lorraine's project. I clicked on the name, and so you would come and you would click and view the attachment, and then I can reply and make a comment. Oh, that was nice. I liked how you did this, or I was a little confused on this particular aspect. So that kind of thing, using the criteria we talked about today. So I'm just going to go back. So here's the site. And here's also those instructions of what I just talked about now. Okay. So, oh, I see somebody in the chat said they already have an icon in mind that they'd like to work on. Perfect. Very exciting. So I also want to mention before we're done, oh, let me make sure yes, comment on 2 peer submissions. Oh, and then also, if you're interested in this, we will follow up on you. And I will go in and make comments as well and view and just make sure everybody gets some kind of comment on their work. But if you will, there's a survey. As soon as we close the session, there'll be a survey that pops up on your screen, and the very first question is if you're interested in the optional project. All right, so now I'm going to talk about, just briefly here while we wrap up, if you're faculty and staff and you want to download Adobe Creative Cloud, that's the newest version of Adobe products, you can do that on your machine, and then there's instructions on how to do that. So it's available for download via Landesk. There's also optional work from home rights. So I strongly encourage you to check out the business, so OIT's webpage, the services. If you go to that A to Z on the service list, I'm just going to click this link here so you can see it. All right, so this is the Adobe page. Under services, there's this lovely A to Z list. I love this list. And you've got Adobe right here. And there's all the information on obtaining the software, additional training, and eligibility and things like that. So here's a list here of all that's available for faculty and staff. Okay, so we've got a couple questions. Should we download Creative Cloud if we're already downloaded CS6? Yes, but you should uninstall CS6 first. And there should be instructions at least on this page or somewhere linking to another page with those instructions. I know we had it on a previous newsletter. That's a great question. I would definitely uninstall CS6 first. The great thing about Creative Cloud is that they're now, instead of, before it was CS4, 5, or 6, instead of where you'd have to wait 2 years for a new update, now they're pushing periodic updates. So every, I don't know, couple of weeks or months or that kind of thing, they'll periodically push an update out. So it's important to update frequently too, because you'll get new functionality. All right. So there we go. And then we had another one. You can access inside SMU. If you're in the Cox School of Business, you can still do that. It's the same for everyone across campus. It's your SMU ID and password. So it's those same credentials for logging in. All right. The direct link, great question. So we will send out the direct link if you'll put it, if you'll respond. That's one reason we wanted to, if you would respond in the survey, then we'll let everybody know what that direct link is so you don't have to write it all down right now. All right, there we go. All right, so also resource links after the webinar. I just wanted to point out our training homepage. I'm going to put the materials there as well as on the Inside SMU site. So the recording from today, it won't be in the next couple of days, but sometime soon we will put that recording up there. So if you want to go back and watch something again, you can. Or if you don't want to wait till that recording gets up, we have all those other links in the material section that are excellent as well. All right. Are there any other questions from what we have today? I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christina. If you do have any questions, go ahead and type them in the little message, the chat box there, and then I'll come back on and answer them in a minute, but I'll let Christina wrap us up. Thank you all so much for joining, and I hope this will help reduce any possible frustration that you might have had with trying to find graphics and icons and give you the freedom to create your own as needed. Thanks so much.